Hi everyone, my name is Megan and I will be your instructor for Bio 315. So we are going to be studying ecology this term. I just want to give you an introduction into what to expect from this course, what to expect of me, and what I should be expecting of you, as well as an introduction into, where to find everything within our Brightspace page. So first off, you'll notice right away that this is not our class's Brightspace page. So I'm just using a different term just so that I can show you that students have actually posted things. And so the first thing I want to do before we even get into the course content is to make sure that you are receiving my announcements as emails. So a lot of times students either don't check their emails or don't check the announcements. And then they're missing a lot of the tools that I give you. Okay, so when I enter one of these courses, you may know this already, as an instructor, I can't change anything. Okay, all the learning modules have already been pre-planned and all the content is produced by the SNHU curriculum team. So I can't adjust anything. And so the way that I can add my own information for you on how to do things is via the announcements. That's basically the only way I can do it. So make sure you watch and read my announcements. I do have them as videos and I have a written announcement, and I do send out announcements quite frequently, at least 4 times a week. So make sure you're getting them by email so you don't miss anything. To do that, you can go ahead and click on your name in the upper right-hand corner, and then click on the notifications tab. And so here you can change your settings. Okay, so if you don't want it at whatever your normal SNHU email, you can always change it to a different email. You can even register your cell phone. And then do make sure that you're clicking the email for the announcements. That way you'll get it in an email right when I send it, and you won't miss anything. You can also check any of these other things if you're interested, when assignments are about to be due and so forth. So that's up to you, but do check those emails. Okay, so let's get into our actual course. So let me just go back to the main page. So when you enter our course, you'll notice there's an old picture of myself, and then you'll have the announcements that have been added recently. If you scroll down, you'll have your learning modules, and you can kind of see your progress through them. I suggest that you take this week to take a look at the Start Here folder, the assignments information folder, and then of course your module 1 information. So when we get into the Start Here folder, you can definitely take a look at the syllabus. So when we take a look at the syllabus, you'll notice there is quite a bit of information. The main things that students really need to know is that they will be required to purchase access to the Elements of Ecology textbook. I have a paperback version of it, which looks like this. Okay, but most of you will just get the e-version, the ebook version. I'm old school and I need a hardback to be able to read. It's just the way I learn things. So make sure that you've purchased that access to your textbook starting on day 1 of this class so that you can complete the first quiz, which is chapter 1 in your textbook. Okay, obviously you've taken bio or SNHU courses in the past because Environmental Science 101 is a requirement. So you should be familiar with the technology that's involved with online courses. If not, you can always check out that. Diversity, equity, inclusion. So we are a very diverse community. You'll notice that when we are looking through our discussion posts for the first week, that you'll see people from across the country even outside of the United States within our course. All walks of life. Some people are just out of high school, just starting their college career. Others have been, getting ready to graduate this term in the environmental science program. Some students have come back to school after a lengthy period of time, maybe are currently employed, maybe are part-time, or maybe not even employed at all, but are just concentrating on their degree. Some students are young, some students are old, some students have families, some students, are retired and are looking for, just a new career path and so forth. So there's a diversity of students within this course. So of course we want to be respectful of everybody within the course. This usually isn't a problem in this particular course, but just be mindful of what you're posting in your discussion boards, the tone that you're using when you're responding to students' posts and so forth. Always be polite. This is a professional setting, so we don't want to use slang terms. We don't want to, use particular language that might trigger people and things like that. So we want to make sure that everybody feels safe and included within this course. Okay. My availability and response time. So I am required to respond to any emails that you have sent to me within 24 hours. So I will always do that. If you don't get a response from me, then I didn't get your email. Okay, so maybe you forgot to push send, or I don't know. If you don't get a response from me within 24 hours, I did not receive the email. So do send it again. If you're trying to understand something better, if you have a question about the assignments or the content, it's always a good idea to post your questions under the general questions discussion board instead of just straight out emailing me. Most of the time, another student in this course has the same question as you. So for example, in the past, I've gotten questions about where do I find this article? It's no longer showing on my site. And I start getting like 5 or 6 emails from students instead of, just one student posting it in the general questions discussion board and then me responding to that. It's a lot easier, and everybody, gets the answer right away instead of waiting for me to respond. Okay. Do remember that when you do submit something, I will grade it after it's due. Okay, so if it's due Sunday midnight, which all of your assignments are due by, then expect to get a grade on it sometime Monday or Tuesday. I usually don't go any further than that. Most likely it'll be Monday of that week. So do take a look at any feedback that I've provided for you, and make sure you don't make the same mistakes twice. You'll be amazed that students oftentimes don't check their feedback, and then they keep doing the same thing over and over again, wondering why they're not getting an improved score. So do make sure that you check your feedback. So you can see a breakdown of the course. We do have every week you will be expected to do a discussion board, which there's 7 of them. That means that in week 7, when you have a big project due, it's an optional thing. So that's why there's only 7 instead of 8. Each one is worth 30 points. So that's, pretty good size of your grade. You will have a quiz every week. So that quiz depends, or the point value of the quiz will depend on how many chapters you're covering in your textbook. So for example, in module 1, you're only covering chapter 1. So that is a 5-point quiz. That will be 5 questions, 5-point quiz. If you, when we get into module 2, there's actually 3 chapters we're covering, chapter 2, 3, and 4. So there'll be 5 questions from chapter 2, 5 questions from chapter 3, and 5 questions from chapter 4. And so the total points is 15 instead of 5. So just, be aware that the quiz scores do change weekly based on the number of chapters that you're covering. Okay. And then the bulk of your points are based on the final project. So the final project is composed of 3 milestones, which we'll be doing throughout the term, and then putting it all together into one final project for submission. So the milestones, they're worth 95 points each. So that's quite a bit. This is where the bulk of the term's points are. So we want to spend lots of time on these. So the first one will be due in week 2. Milestone 2 is due in week 4, and milestone 3 is due in week 6. So each of the milestones will cover a portion of this final project. So the reason being behind this is that you will submit, for example, the first milestone will cover the introduction and methods section of your final project. You'll submit it. I will give you extensive feedback on that, the introduction and methods sections, so that you can make improvements. That way, when you submit your final project, it'll be, perfection, hopefully. Okay, so think of the milestones as like the rough drafts, and you'll get the feedback from me, making sure that you incorporate that feedback, and then presenting the final submission worth 400 points. That's 40% of your grade. Hopefully you'll have taken that feedback, incorporated, produced A+ submission for your final project. That's our goal, right? Okay. So just keep an eye on the weekly assignments. So every week you'll have a quiz, no matter what. Most weeks, except for week 7, you'll have a discussion board post, and then the final project and milestones are basically every other week. Okay. So here's basically the assignment schedule. So you'll notice that the first week is a little funky because we have all the assignments are due by midnight Eastern Standard Time, whereas anything past that, module 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's due by your local time zone. So if you're in Pacific Daylight Time, like me, or Pacific Standard Time, I guess we're in. No, we're in. Right now, I think we're in daylight savings time, but it's 3 hours later than Eastern, the East Coast. So your assignments, you get an extra 3 hours to complete it because you weren't notified it until 3 hours later than the people on the East Coast. So this isn't particularly an issue for students that don't procrastinate. But if you are a student that procrastinates, do pay attention, especially that first week. Okay, so if you're waiting till the last minute to submit something, it has to be based on Eastern Standard Time. So that might be different from your current time zone. So you can take a look at what the different assignments are each week. So everybody's going to have a chapter reading from the textbook, a discussion board, a quiz, and then some other activities might be posted in there. Okay. This information you can take a look at briefly. So the course participation is just a requirement that you participate within the first week. That means that you have completed one graded assignment by midnight Sunday of the first week. So if you don't turn anything in the first week, you get automatically dropped. So do make sure that you do submit something. Okay. Late assignments, we do allow late assignments with the exception of discussion board posts. So you cannot submit a discussion board post late, so meaning the next week, because everybody's finished with that post and they're not going to go back and read your response. So you do need to make sure that you're posting your discussion board posts on time. Everything else, any assignment such as a quiz or a milestone, you can submit up to 1 week late with a late penalty. So that late penalty is 10% off the total value. So if we're talking about a quiz, that's not that much. But if we're talking about a final submission of your project, that's 40 points right there if you submit it a week, within a week late. Anything past a week late is not accepted at all. And this is just a policy by the college. I don't have any control over it. So if you are emailing me 2 weeks, want to submit something 2 weeks late, you say, whatever the excuse is, sorry, I can't give you credit for it no matter what. It's a policy that we have, and you can read about it in your student handbook. So everything needs to be within 1 week. Late is the maximum. Okay. Let's see. And I do follow, like if you see here, exceptions to late policy on the ground. I just follow the straight 10% penalty, even if you're a day late versus 6 days late, it's 10% no matter what. Okay. And then anything else? One thing that does come up quite a bit in this course is academic integrity. So that is plagiarism. So do realize that any of your milestones do get submitted to a plagiarism detection site known as turnitin.com. And this will scan the web for anything that looks similar to the writing that you have provided. So if you are copying things, whether it's from a resource or from another student's paper, yes, I know about those, other websites where you can buy papers. Just realize that you will probably get called out about it, and it can result in a 0 on the assignment, as well as basically a student dishonesty conduct report gets submitted based on your plagiarism, and it just remains on your permanent record here at SNHU. So don't do it. Everything should be in your own words. We are all learning, so we need to actually show that we're learning and we're not just hijacking information from other people and using it as our own. So do pay attention to that. Okay. All right, so that's the syllabus. I've kind of gone through the major parts, but feel free to take a look at it later on your own. As far as the rest of the Start Here folder, there's the guide for turnitin.com. We do have this general questions discussion board post, so you can see that here in the Start Here folder, but you can also just use the tab under course menu to access it. I do suggest that you subscribe to the general questions discussion board post. Okay, I already subscribed, but you just click that drop down menu and then just click subscribe. That way, if anybody is submitting a general question, it'll get sent out to the entire class based on your subscription status. If you want it emailed right away, or if you want to wait till the end of the day or whatever. So subscribe to it just so that you can keep updated on anything that people have had questions on, and feel free to respond to those questions if you know the answer, or look at the general questions before you ask me a question via email, because somebody probably already asked it and you can find out the answer right there. And always, it's a good idea to post your questions that are related to course conduct, content, or assignments directly on the general questions folder discussion board post. Also technology related stuff you can ask in the general questions, so that you can hopefully get a response right away from myself or another student within the course. If it's of a personal nature, then you can email me. Okay. So that's the Start Here folder. I'm going to go back to the page here so you can, take a look at that. In module 1, you're going to be taking a look at the final project as one of your assignments. So as we go through the term, if you're looking for information about the introduction section or something like that, all of that's housed in the assignment information folder, okay, as well as within the modules themselves. So if you're in module 4 and you want to know something, where's the article that I need to be using, which was introduced in module 2, it's also here in the assignment information folder. So feel free to use this for everything. So you'll see the guidelines and rubrics for each of the milestones, including the final project. And then we have some associated files that you will be using for the final project. Okay, so that's where those are located in addition to within the modules themselves. Okay, so each week you will be completing a discussion board post as well as a quiz, and then an additional assignment perhaps, such as the milestones. When we go into the course menu, you'll notice that we have them, the announcements folder, the learning modules. Some easy ways to access things would be just go straight to the discussion boards. So if, for example, you're in module 1, you've completed the initial post, you might want to go ahead and start taking a look at some of the responses. Okay, so here's an example of the first discussion board post you will be completing, which includes like an introduction of you, and as well as finding an article from Science Daily and paraphrasing it in your own words, no quotes allowed in this course, and writing about it and so forth. So when you start a discussion board thread, so start a new thread, I highly suggest that you don't go with a generic introduction. Week one, scientific research. This doesn't tell the reader anything, okay? So you're going to want to write, perhaps for this first one, the name of your article, okay? So you're going to be choosing an article from Science Daily, just, you know, something that catches people's attention. This does not catch people's attention, but something like the Jenna experiment, hey, that catches people's attention. So I suggest that instead of writing these 1-1 discussions over and over again, just, you know, write the actual title of what you will be writing about, okay? Once you've written your initial discussion board post, you'll be looking through other students' posts and finding 2 that you will respond to. So when you respond to something, you'll want to look for, first of all, the replies. If you see that it already has 2 replies to it, at least, then perhaps choose one that doesn't have that many replies to it, okay? So that way everybody gets a response, not just, you know, the first person on the list gets a million responses. Okay. When you are doing these discussion board posts, do follow the rubric. I follow the rubric when I'm grading them. So your initial post needs to be between 1 and 2 paragraphs. For this level, this is a 300 level course, I recommend 2 paragraphs at least, okay? So for this first module, for example, you'll be doing a couple of things. You'll be writing an introduction about yourself, a couple sentences there, and then you'll be summarizing an article that you read from Science Daily, as well as responding to the, you know, what you learned from that article. So that's about 2 paragraphs right there, just writing about that particular article, kind of making sure that when you're writing it, it's in layman's terms. So especially if it's something that is complex. Most students here, they've maybe taken biology, but they don't have, you know, an undergraduate degree in biology like I do. So if you're going to be talking about lysosomes, for example, I don't know if everybody knows what a lysosome is. So make sure that you're explaining things in your own words in a way that you're teaching somebody within the class about your subject matter. So it needs to be in the language that you're explaining things to other students, okay? Not explaining things to me with an advanced degree, other students, okay? So you know, you might need to define some of those more complex terms in your posts. Another thing that I look for in your posts is that these are research-based. So you need to have references, and those references need to be in APA format. So you're going to use proper citation methods that will be in APA format. So that this will be scholarly or popular sources. When I talk about popular sources, these should be credible. Okay, this would be like National Geographic, Smithsonian, something like that would be a popular source. Or you could use a scholarly source like ornithology or something like that, which is an academic journal. So make sure that you are using something that's peer reviewed. Blog posts are not peer reviewed. Wikipedia is not peer reviewed. Well, it is, but it's constantly changing. So we want something that has been published. When you are researching, do make sure that you include the reference in your post. So that'll be an APA formatted full reference at the end of your post. If you are unsure how to write things in APA format, you can go to the Shapiro Library. And they actually have a citing your sources guide that is very helpful. So how to cite a source from a website, a newspaper, a book. So this will help you figure out what's the proper format. In addition to a full reference at the end of your initial post, you will include in-text citations of information that you got from somewhere else, from your reference. So if you're writing your posts, for example, let's say you're writing about this article that you learned about eastern gray squirrels, and you learned that the litter of an eastern gray squirrel can range from 2 to 8 pups. I'm making this up. So I didn't know that off the top of my head. I read it in an article that I'm referencing. So at the end of that sentence, you need to include an in-text citation that includes the author, comma, year of the reference, and then include the full reference at the end of your post. So that's just telling the reader, the other students in the class, that you didn't know that information off the top of your head. You got it from somewhere. Now, notice I say you didn't know the information. It's not copying somebody's words directly in these posts. You don't want to quote anything. We're scientists. As a scientist, we don't quote. If you look at any journal, academic journal article that's from a science discipline, no quotes anywhere. So everything needs to be in your own words, but you need to include an in-text citation telling us where you got that information from. Okay, if it came from your head, then obviously you don't need an in-text citation. So if you understood something or you're responding, your opinion, things like that, don't need to include in-text citation. 2 to 8 pups per litter during, twice a year breeding season, you need to include where you got that information from within your text. Okay, so use the citing your sources guideline to help you with your citations. So the initial post needs to be completed by Thursday midnight. For the first one, module 1, it needs to be completed by Thursday midnight Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so that should be for every week, but I'm kind of relaxed on that. If you're on the West Coast like I am, it's 3 hours later. Just post it by 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time is fine. Okay. For the second part is your peer review responses. So you're going to, again, choose 2 peer review responses, 2 of your fellow classmates. This doesn't include responding to me, because sometimes I will post a response to your post and maybe highlight some information that I know about your subject, or ask questions or things like that. That is not included in these response posts grade. Okay, so you'll reply to at least 2 classmates outside of your own initial post. And these responses need to be at least a paragraph long and also be research-based. Okay, so you're not just saying, hey, great job, this looks pretty good to me. You need to demonstrate that you understood what the student wrote, and that you want to drive the discussion forward by adding some more information. Okay, so this could include additional research on the topic. And sometimes it might even be, if it's a topic that's in your own expertise. So some of you have, already have careers, perhaps in the scientific field. And so you might actually know some of this information off the top of your head. But you'll want to respond to that student with at least a paragraph, and include additional research. Okay, so for example, you might say like, oh, in your post, it was really interesting how you stated that there was blah, 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 2 to 8 pups in a litter for eastern gray squirrels. I learned when I conducted my own research, and I'm going to go conduct some more research, that they actually have more than one nesting sites. So they might have 4 or 5 nesting sites where they can move their pups to if they're in danger. And here's the information of where, or the reference of where I got that information from. So you're adding to the information that the previous student had posted, and you're driving it forward. Okay, so you're not just saying, cool, 2 to 8 pups per litter, great. You're actually driving it forward and adding more information that maybe the initial post didn't provide, or you're addressing something that you found interesting and want to add to it. Okay, so when we take a look at our rubric, the initial post is about 40% of the grades. And then the 2 response posts is about 30%. And then you are also graded on if you submit the post on time. Okay, so you get 10 points just for, or 10% of your grade is based on submitting it on time. And then writing mechanics. So did you spell things correctly? Did you write in paragraph format? Did you include professional language, not slang? Did you include proper citation methods? So that includes your in-text citations and your full references. So all of that will be included in a score for your writing. Okay, automatically, if you don't have any references at all, it drops down quite a bit. If you improperly reference something, like you forgot to use in-text citations, I'll give you a warning and drop your grade down a little bit. Okay. All right, so that's the discussion boards. Make sure that you are completing them. The initial post Thursday midnight, the responses by Sunday midnight. The other part of your grade that you're going to be doing every week is the quizzes. So the quizzes are a chapter reading. Okay, so each module will cover 1, 2, 3. Actually, the last module has 4 chapters. Okay. So this is based out of your Elements of Ecology textbook. You don't need to memorize everything word for word. You don't even need to take notes when you're reading through your textbook. The quizzes, they are pretty specific. They're from a test bank that came with the textbook itself. So you will want to have the textbook handy when you're answering the questions in the quiz. So it is open note, it's open textbook quiz. There's no time limit, so you can take as much time as you want, and you get 2 attempts. So if you don't get 100% the first attempt, try it again. Okay, just note that they will have different questions because they're randomized. Okay, so those are due every week by Sunday midnight. And then finally, you have your additional assignments, such as the the milestones. The first milestone is not until module 2, so we're not going to worry about it this week. Okay, so now that you have a better understanding of the information within the course, you're going to go ahead and get started right in the module 1 folder. Okay, if you have any questions that are of a general nature about the content of the course, feel free to post them in our general questions discussion board post. If it's of a personal nature, feel free to email me directly. All right, great to see you or meet you all. And this will be a great term. So let's get started.